She's one of the most infamous female prison inmates in America.
I mean, how many average school teachers would go to court for a murder charge? I don't think it's too typical.
Carolyn Warmus, a then 25-year-old school teacher convicted of killing Betty Jean Solomon, the wife of her 40-year-old secret lover, Paul Solomon. And now, at age 54, after spending 29 years behind bars, Warmus is fighting to get her hands on the key piece of evidence that could unlock her cell door.
The only thing was mostly the glove.
Just like another historic murder case.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
But will this glove finally acquit Carolyn Warmus too?
Do you think that testing the glove would prove your innocence?
To this day, Warmus maintains her innocence, and now she's sitting down with Crime Watch Daily from behind bars in upstate New York to reveal new details that she claims will finally clear her name.
Do you think he was trying to frame you?
Her sensational case ignited a firestorm of endless screaming front-page headlines and feverish nightly news reports.
The Fatal Attraction murder trial today.
Portraying Carolyn as a seductive young femme fatale who shot her lover's wife to death in a jealous, bloody fury.
Well, taken all together, obviously, it doesn't portray you well.
Well, nothing in the media portrayed me well. I mean, that, you know, had they just focused on the truth and the facts, you know, it would have been a different story. But I guess that doesn't make a sexy story to sell in the media.
A real-life story that drew comparisons to the movie classic, Fatal Attraction.
Hey, Alex, come on.
This was the Fatal Attraction movie.
But in real life, Carolyn Warmus appeared to be a most unlikely villainess.
You've been described as the type of woman that a man would want to bring home to his mother.
Oh.
Did you consider yourself that way?
That was sweet. Yes, I was like the girl next door.
A millionaire's daughter from Michigan who had gone to the best private schools, graduated from Columbia University in New York City, and was working as an elementary school teacher in upscale Westchester County.
What drove you to do that?
My mom was a school teacher, and education was always very important in our family. And then I loved being around children, so it just sort of seemed like a perfect fit.
But Carolyn admits she indulged in a very different kind of life outside of the classroom, wallowing in the freewheeling excesses of the anything-goes roaring 80s.
I was enjoying myself as a young 23-year-old woman living in Manhattan. In today's day and age, they call it hooking up.
Among the many men in her life was Paul Solomon, an older fellow teacher Carolyn says hit on her soon after they began working together.
Paul Solomon approached me and said a lot of the teachers were getting together to go to a local restaurant, bar, and did I want to go? And I said sure. And the only person who showed up was Paul Solomon.
A married man with a teenage daughter and a reputation as a serial womanizer.
Having relations with colleagues, school teachers, other people.
But Carolyn claims she didn't find out until it was too late.
I was already dating him, and that was certainly a huge mistake by me to continue dating him and to not have ended it right then and there.
Why didn't you break it off at that point?
He said that he had an open marriage, so I just thought this is the way things are in the big city.
And did he ever tell you that he loved you?
Oh, sure. Sure, he wrote cards and everything.
And did you tell him the same?
Mm-hmm.
That you felt the same way?
I did.
Did he lead you to believe that ultimately the two of you would end up together?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. He said after his daughter Kristen finished high school.
Which was how many years away at that point?
At that point, it was like 3 or 4.
Carolyn says Solomon told her his wife was also having an affair with his knowledge and approval.
It turned out to be true because she had been dating a man for 8 years.
Did you ever meet his wife?
We did. We did meet at school functions.
Carolyn says she was even invited to family dinners at the Solomon house.
Wasn't that awkward?
I thought it would be very, very awkward. And Paul sort of encouraged me and said, no, I want you to see how we interact together.
You're sleeping with a man and then having dinner with him and his wife.
It was bizarre.
Because then something else happened. Paul Solomon comes home one night to find his wife Betty Jean viciously murdered. He calls police.
The call, from what I remember, was very frantic.
Richard Constantino was the lead detective on the case.
I walk into their apartment, and saw the body of Betty Jean Solomon laying face up on the floor in the living room.
Pistol whipped and riddled with bullets, 9 in all, 3 of them in her back.
She was pretty well covered in blood, and her clothes were blood-soaked.
And lying right next to her body is this glove, which police failed to collect as evidence.
Was that a major mistake?
That was an oversight.
One that would come to change the entire course of the case.
Do you think it's odd that a glove was left near the body?
If it's from the killer.
Next, detectives already think they know who done it,
Our first suspect was Paul Solomon.
until they become convinced that Carolyn Warmus would have killed to get Paul Solomon all to herself.
She wanted Paul Solomon, and she's going to go to any extreme to get him. Our first suspect was Paul Solomon.
Why?
Because he was the last person to see the victim, and he was the one to find the body.